Welcome back into your class on Piaget, and in this little discussion, what I'm going to do is illustrate to you a way that you might apply some of Piaget's theories about the concrete operational, about where kids are, into teaching them how to do some mathematical concepts. This one is entitled, How Do We Add Fractions? And of course, this is really, it could be subtitled, Secrets of the Universe Revealed, the dog shares all, so bear with me on this. First of all, we have this expression, 1/2 plus 1/4 equals how much? Now, I want you to look at that just a minute. What if you were an alien that had just landed on the Earth 10,000 years in the future, man has obliterated himself, and you find this scratched on a chalkboard? How would you ever make sense of this? This is a very complex statement. 1/2 plus 1/4 equals how much? Now look at all the concepts one would have to know. You have to know what this means, what that symbol means, what that symbol means, and what that's asking. Very interesting deal. And you might say, well, what in the world is this? How am I supposed to do it? And of course, what evil scheme is this? And that's how a lot of kids see mathematics, is this an evil scheme which has been unleashed upon them. In order to understand this problem, let's start first with this phrase 1/2 and see if we can develop what that means. Now, a fraction represents a way of dividing up a whole. And what I have done here is developed a circle to represent a whole unit of 1. The bottom number of a fraction is called the denominator. And what the denominator does is tells us how many equal parts the whole is cut into. Now, in this case, the numerator is the top number. Remember, the bottom number tells us it's cut into 2 pieces. The numerator tells us how many equal pieces that we have. If it's cut into 2 pieces, then the numerator tells us that we have 1 of those. Now, let's go over and apply this to the fraction 1/4. The bottom number, denominator, tells us the whole is cut into 4 pieces. The numerator tells us that we have 1 of those. So what we in fact in this problem have is a whole cut into 2 pieces, and 1 of those pieces added to a whole cut into 4 pieces, and we have 1 of those. 1/2 plus 1/4 equals how much? Now, the fundamental rule of arithmetic really comes into play here. The fundamental rule of arithmetic says that you can only add things that are alike. For example, how many are 2 giraffes plus 3 cars? Well, somebody could say 5, but 5 what? 2 giraffes plus 3 cars is 2 giraffes and 3 cars, because you can't add things that are alike. This problem is 1/2 plus 1/4. These things are not alike, and therefore adding them makes no difference, or makes no sense. It doesn't compute. Now, what if we cut this one into 2 pieces? Now, I want you to look closely at this. We have this piece, and this piece. Those all appear to be the same size. So, in fact, what we have done is to our fraction of 1/2, which was right here, we have divided that 1/2 in 2 again, and now we have 2 of a part cut into 4 pieces plus 1 of a part cut into 4 pieces. This making these shapes the same size so they can be added is called finding the common denominator. Remember, the denominator is the bottom number. This is what you've done. 2/4 plus 1/4. 2/4 plus 1/4 equals how many? The answer to that is 2 of them plus 1 of them equals 3 of them. So 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. Now, there's some terms you need to know from this. Fraction is a way of expressing parts of a whole. Denominator is the number of equal pieces the whole is cut into. It's the bottom. Numerator is the number of equal pieces you have, and that's the top number. And a common denominator is making certain that 2 wholes are cut into the same number of pieces. So we're just on a flow with this. Now we know how to add fractions. Well, fraction, denominator, numerator, and common denominator, all things that can be represented visually. Now, what you have just done is mastered the concept of adding those 2 fractions. You have seen it in visual form. Remember that if you go in there and you look at that a whole is a circle, and that circle is cut in half, or like a half fraction means it's cut in two. The denominator tells us how many pieces it's cut into, and the top number or numerator tells us how many that we have. And we have to make certain that all of the pieces are the same size before we can add them. That's called finding a common denominator. I hope you enjoyed this little video and want you to live long and prosper and fall in love with mathematics, which is the queen of science.